Terrorists win with the FAA. I'm John Phillips, and this is After Hours. The FAA banned all flights to Israel because of one Hamas rocket near the airport in Tel Aviv. They said it was a necessary move to keep passengers safe. But former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg thinks it was overkill. Let's go ahead and take a listen to him on CNN.
I just want to do something personally to show my support for standing up for what's right. I think Israel is doing that. Hamas is trying to kill the Palestinians and kill the Israelis. And somebody's got to say that they've got to stop this. And then along comes the FAA, which I think made a mistake. Hope they'll rectify it soon. But they said didn't want American planes flying in to the world's most secure airport. And so I decided I would take a trip over here on the world's most secure airline.
The FAA announced late last night that they were allowing flights to resume, but said that they will continue to closely monitor the very fluid situation around Ben Gurion Airport, which means that they could stop flights again at any time. Is it possible for the Palestinians to blow up a commercial airliner headed for Tel Aviv? Of course it's possible. After all, they're the lunatics that voted for the terrorist organization Hamas to be their government. But that doesn't mean that it's probable. Israel has a better handle on national security than virtually any country on the planet, including ours. If they say it's safe to fly, then it's fine by me. And let's not forget that passengers make the determination for themselves before they get on the plane. But there's one thing that I know for sure. The FAA shouldn't step in and do what Hamas couldn't do and shut down travel to our closest ally on planet Earth. Here to kick this around is the After Hours panel. She's the host of the Tammy Bruce radio show, which you can get online at tammybruce.com. Tammy Bruce. He's a very fair-minded civil rights defense attorney who you can get at clearthecourt.com. Mr. Leo Terrell, and he's the PJTV contributor from his home studio in the great state of Texas, Scott Ott. Now, Tammy, you wrote your column on this very topic for the Washington Times.
That's right.
And you believe that this was not taken as a safety precaution, that this was a political move by the FAA. Can you explain why?
Yeah, absolutely. And what you note is correct. I mean, here you have a terrorist organization that wanted to shut down the airport because Israel relies on tourism. It's an important point of pride for that nation. And since the Hamas couldn't shut down the airport, Barack Obama did it for them, which is shocking. Now, what you've got, though, when you have to think of it in context, there are so many hotspots, so many cities and countries in trouble. So, as an example, you can fly from New York to Karachi in Pakistan, which was attacked by terrorists just 6 months ago and remains a target of terrorists. But there is no flight ban or notice to airmen for Karachi. There are two airlines. They're not American carriers, but they leave JFK, Emirates, and Turkish Airlines that fly directly to Kabul. And there's no warning out of JFK regarding those flights. I mean, it is a ridiculous dynamic when you think of all the nations in the world, the security of Israel is second to none. And also when you have to think of the timing. John Kerry was in Egypt on Tuesday when the ban was implemented. He then flew to Tel Aviv to the scary, dangerous Ben Gurion Airport on Wednesday as it had been extended by 1 day. This was a message to Israel that either you do what and they'll have to make concessions, America's arguing, I'm sure, to the terrorists that are trying to murder everyone, to Hamas, that you make these concessions or we're going to hurt you. This is the Cosa Nostra way of doing things. It's not diplomacy. It has nothing to do with security or anything else. It has to do with, in the world that is crazy as it is right now, the one thing that the Obama administration has done decisively is to try to hurt the Jewish state that's trying to fend off terrorists.
Leo, we just had a Malaysia Airlines plane shot down over the Ukraine. And a lot of people are criticizing the pilots. A lot of people are criticizing the regulatory agencies that allowed them to fly over the Ukraine. How much does that incident play into what just happened in Israel?
Tremendous. And I had to respectfully disagree with my colleague Tammy. Look, I'm a strong supporter of Israel. But I got news for you. Even though the FAA lifted that ban, Delta Airlines said we're still not going to fly over there. And Hamas has increased its strikes, its so-called bombs over to Israel. Look, flip it over. Just imagine if one of those bombs did hit a plane. No country is absolutely perfect as far as its defense. And if there was not a ban, I got news for you. The question would have been, why wasn't there a ban? For example, that most recent Malaysia flight over Ukraine. We were told not to fly over there. My point is that hot spots get hotter. Tammy's analogy to Kabul, well spoken, but certain spots get hotter. And right now, Israel and Hamas is a hot spot.
Now, I have to say this, though. There's no flight ban for Kiev or Ukraine either. And that's where the shoot-down happened. This is where the hypocrisy is.
Look, Americans are afraid to fly. You look at the Malaysia plane twice, and you're flying, they're afraid.
Well, let me ask you point blank. Let's say you've sat on the board of directors for big companies before.
Yes.
Let's say you're sitting on the board of directors for American Airlines.
Right.
And they're turning to you and they're saying, we need a fair-minded opinion. What's the liability for flying in to Israel right now? What would you tell them?
Extremely high. Notwithstanding, it's the risk-reward. Israel has the greatest defense. I agree with that 100%. Super security, military, but you're talking about the possibility in a very, very hot spot right now. Hamas would love to shoot down one of those planes. You know what it would do? It would destroy the notion that Israel can't be attacked.
Scott, talk to me about the winners and losers here. Is this a win for Hamas? Is this a win for the Palestinians?
Yeah, I think it is, because as you pointed out, I mean, what happened was exactly what they'd like to see happen. They have very little ability to accurately target their missiles, as evidenced by the fact that they've lobbed thousands of them into Israel and hit virtually nothing. So, you know, it's sure a pot shot could accidentally hit one of the targets, but the likelihood of that happening is very slim. Israel is fantastic. I mean, I've flown into that Tel Aviv Ben Gurion airport. It's a beautiful, highly secure place. I think. You know, my colleagues who suggest that the airlines and the passengers themselves need to decide on what safety level they're comfortable with, that's the correct answer. It's not the federal government in the United States telling people that they can't land in a country 11 hours from here. That's idiotic. And frankly, Leo, I almost always agree with you 103% of the time, but this time you're wrong. Americans aren't afraid to fly. Americans treat flying as if they were just parking on the lazy boy in their living room. They have no conception of the danger of flying.
Shame on all you guys. You know what? No one expected two planes to be shot down 9/11 to go into the Twin Towers. No one on this planet. We shut down all airlines. Shame on you guys because you assume that it cannot happen.
And we're still flying, and we understand now. Here's what we've learned. Leo's afraid to fly.
Yes, yes.
Well, you just need to give him a cocktail or two to loosen up a little bit. Now, Leo, but when people travel, you have to make a lot of determinations.
Sure.
When I went to Argentina, I had to take Malarone, which is an antibiotic to make sure that you don't get malaria. Okay? That's a possibility when you travel there. When you travel to other countries where you see outbreaks of certain diseases, you know that there's a chance that you could get sick when you're on the road.
Sure.
You know when you go to Israel that you could be eating in a pizzeria that could theoretically be blown up. You know that you could be flying in a plane that's being shot at. Isn't the individual the best person to make that decision?
Yes, but I'm telling you, the American psyche is not used to what you just described. We're used to a car accident happening on the freeway. We're not used to bombs going off next to the restaurant. It is a totally different world. It's a totally different mindset. And for Americans to learn that overseas for the first time is shocking.
Tammy, are you surprised at the reaction that this story has gotten?
No, because maybe 5 years ago the reaction would have been different. But this is also, I think, the reaction to the choice by the Obama administration is a reflection of the fact that now we realize everything they do is for some kind of other reason, that nothing they've done is for national security. Nothing they've done is because it was the right thing to do. There's always a political motive. There's always something in there for them to get. We see them, especially with Israel, you got ISIS still running through Iraq, you've got Syria with 170,000 dead, you got all kinds of horrible things going on still in Ukraine with Russia. And the one decisive thing they do is go after the Jews. I mean, people have to ask, why?
I'll answer that because let me tell you right now. America is Israel's strongest ally. America has to balance what else is going on in the world. Israel doesn't have any friends in Europe.
You got to
None
do
whatsoever.
balancing. You got to be doing something else in the rest of the world to have a balance. They're doing nothing.
It is the same President Obama that you respectfully criticize who said
I don't respectfully do it.
He supports Israel going in there, flushing out those tunnels. So I think he's been very supportive.
Don't forget, you're the fair-minded one.
I'm very fair-minded.
All right, now, Scott, there's always been a gentleman's agreement. Whenever there's been a hot spot around the world, you don't target commercial airline jets. Is that gentleman's agreement gone now? And are we living in a different world where you may not even be flying to a spot in the world that's a hot spot? You might be flying over a country that is, but then you're a target yourself.
Yeah, gentlemen's agreements only hold up among gentlemen. And I think that we've seen in the past that, the former Soviet Union and perhaps today Russia and others are willing to do whatever it takes. Look, a terrorist's job is to scare people. The job of a terrorist is to do something you weren't expecting in a place where you felt secure, and by the way, my colleague Leo, we did have a little bombing at the Boston Marathon. We have some sense of this. We did have a little bombing in New York City. We did have a little bombing at the Pentagon. We are not completely clueless about what it's like to live in a world where things can suddenly blow up. We cannot cower before these people. And by the way, the only bright spot in this whole story is the fact that when John Kerry went to visit the leader of Egypt, they wanted him. If only they had given him a generous cavity search.
All right. Now, let me go around. Quick yes or no answer. Scott, we'll start with you. Would you fly into Tel Aviv tomorrow if you were given a free ticket, first class?
If you give me that free ticket, I'll take it right now. Absolutely, John. Thank you.
Leo?
No.
Tammy?
Absolutely.
John?
I'd love to.
John?
I'm a scaredy little fraidy cat.
All right. It's 2-2. Thank you, John.
I'm not going to lie.
Thank you, John.
I'm not going to lie.
More seats for us.
I love when the host becomes a commentator. Love it, John.
Well, listen. But I wouldn't want to take away Tammy's right to go.
No, I don't.
Right to go.
But it's 2-2.
Tammy and I are going to sit next to each other on this flight. We're going to fly all the way over there and drink until we're blind, except
and
that
we're going to show you movies like Airport 75,
Yeah.
Airport 76, and Airport
And
76.
Tammy better
That's
not
awesome.
take a nap or Scott's going to eat her Sunday.
Good American films.
All right. Scott Ott, you get the last word. You can get his books at Amazon.com, Political Satire and Mighty Good Ones. Leo Terrell, the fair-minded civil rights defense attorney, you can get him at clearthecourt.com. And Tammy Bruce, who you can listen to online at tammybruce.com. If you'd like to comment on today's show, you can do so in the comments section below. For After Hours, I'm John Phillips. Thanks for watching.